Dibawakan oleh penaja utama jelajah jiwa SME, Unify Business, rakan digital pilihan anda.
Assalamualaikum, salam hormat, anda menyaksikan Niaga AWANI bersama saya Harits Asyraf dan untuk tempoh 1 jam ini banyak tumpuan yang akan kita berikan termasuk melihat terutamanya pasca Belanjawan 2026 dan juga beberapa isu-isu semasa termasuklah dari segi pertamanya penyasaran subsidi di mana ini antara kenyataan yang dikeluarkan oleh Kementerian Kewangan di mana kerajaan berjaya menjimatkan sekitar 5 bilion ringgit setahun melalui pelaksanaan penyasaran semula subsidi diesel di bawah program Budi Madani Diesel atau Budi Diesel sejak 10 Jun 2024. Menurut Kementerian Kewangan MOF, penjimatan itu membantu mengurangkan tekanan fiskal negara dan membolehkan dana disalurkan semula kepada tujuan yang lebih produktif termasuk memperkukuh jaringan keselamatan sosial rakyat.
Dalam jawapan bertulis di laman web di Parlimen, MOF berkata antara langkah proaktif kerajaan ialah menambah baik bantuan tunai seperti sumbangan tunai ramah STR dan sumbangan asas ramah SARA. Peruntukan juga ditingkatkan kepada 13 bilion ringgit di bawah Belanjawan 2025 berbanding 10 bilion ringgit tahun sebelumnya dan seterusnya kepada 15 bilion ringgit menerusi inisiatif penghargaan SARA. Ia menambah hasil penjimatan turut digunakan untuk membiayai projek pembangunan yang dapat meningkatkan kapasiti produktif negara. Setakat ini lebih 140,000 penerima budi individu dan 180,000 penerima budi agri komoditi telah diluluskan dengan jumlah bayaran masing-masing sebanyak 430 juta ringgit dan 350 juta ringgit. Bagi segmen pengangkutan darat barangan di bawah program Budi Mai Subsidi Diesel sehingga 30 September 2025, sebanyak 121,618 syarikat membabitkan 355,074 kenderaan telah diluluskan untuk menggunakan kemudahan Fleet Card. Langkah itu membolehkan mereka mendapatkan bekalan diesel pada harga RM2.15 seliter sekaligus dapat mengekang peningkatan mendadak kos operasi logistik dan memastikan harga barangan keperluan kekal stabil. MOF menjelaskan demikian sebagai menjawab pertanyaan Abdul Khalib Abdullah, Ahli Parlimen Rompin, mengenai keberkesanan penyasaran subsidi petrol dan diesel dalam mengurangkan keterisan serta beban fiskal negara.
Okey, baik, kita nak memberi tumpuan kepada Belanjawan ataupun pasca Belanjawan 2026. Banyak perkara yang disenaraikan, digariskan oleh kerajaan menerusi dokumen setahun peruntukan ini di mana Belanjawan 2026 memberi tumpuan secara inklusif kepada pemain industri, perusahaan kecil dan sederhana PKS di mana Perdana Menteri Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim yang juga Menteri Kewangan berkata kerajaan melipat gandakan sokongan dalam sektor bernilai tinggi dengan peruntukan 200 juta ringgit dana pelaburan bersama strategik yang akan menyediakan dana padanan kepada pemain industri itu. Di mana beliau berkata dana itu juga membabitkan syarikat pertengahan yang mengukuhkan rantaian bekalan sektor ekonomi melalui platform pendanaan equity ECF dan pembiayaan rakan setara P2P. Jadi untuk mengulas dan juga bercerita dengan lebih lanjut dalam konteks komuniti perniagaan bersama dengan saya di studio hari ini. Saya berbesar hati bersama dengan Encik Nivas Ragavan, Naib Pengerusi 1 Persekutuan Persatuan Perniagaan Malaysia FMBA, yang juga Presiden Dewan Perniagaan dan Perindustrian India Kuala Lumpur dan Selangor. Terima kasih Mr. Nivas.
Selamat pagi. Harits.
Selamat pagi. Dan belum terlambat untuk saya ucapkan selamat Hari Deepavali.
Terima kasih.
Baik, bercakap soal Belanjawan 2026 ini, apa mungkin pandangan Encik Nivas dan juga mungkin mewakili FMBA melihat terhadap Belanjawan 2026, terutamanya dalam sudut keusahawanan komuniti perniagaan di Malaysia ini?
Firstly, terima kasih untuk inviting saya today. Actually, Belanjawan 2026 adalah satu titik perubahan yang penting kepada masyarakat PMKS. Disebabkan tahun depan adalah tahun pertama untuk rancangan Malaysia ke-13.
Betul, ya.
Dan juga Kerajaan Madani telah 3 tahun, dekat 3 tahun menerajui negara ini. Dan juga tahun depan adalah tahun yang penting juga kerana kita di bahagian yang terakhir penerajuan kerajaan. So rakyat, negara dan juga PMKS menunggu sesuatu yang memberangsangkan. So melihat kepada teras tonjak ataupun tonggak ekonomi madani, Haris, kita ada 3 aspek yang penting. Satu adalah untuk menaikkan shilling pertumbuhan negara. Selain itu adalah untuk meningkatkan taraf hidup sosio-ekonomi rakyat Malaysia, dan juga yang ketiga adalah memantapkan tata kelola dan juga reformasi sektor awam. So pada 3 tahun yang lepas dan pada masa sekarang, kalau kita tengok adakah perubahan mendadak daripada tiga tonggak ini, dari segi pandangan kita, gabungan Persatuan Perniagaan Malaysia FMBA, kami lihat progresifnya ada sikit tetapi bukan signifikan. So Belanjawan 2026 adalah sangat penting kerana ia akan meningkatkan, seharusnya meningkatkan ataupun memperkasakan PMKS. Pada masa yang sekarang, Harits, kalau kita lihat pre-COVID dan post-COVID, perniagaan, pendaftaran perniagaan telah menurun daripada 1.18 juta perniagaan yang registered with SSM, dan hari ini 6 years down the road dah menurun lebih kurang 95,000. Ia tidak bermakna penutupan perniagaan, tetapi ia menunjukkan mungkin bisnes-bisnes yang sedia ada, dia diversify, dia menubuhkan lebih banyak syarikat, dan juga syarikat-syarikat yang sedia ada dia digulung tikar. So mungkin 300,000 open a new company dan 200,000 gulung tikar. So itu adalah satu situasi yang kritikal. So kerajaan harus melihat dan membuat kajian bagaimana PMKS ni boleh diperkasakan lagi, dan juga bagaimana PMKS ni boleh diberi tumpuan ataupun fokus yang utama. Untuk pengetahuan Haris dan juga pengetahuan semua penonton di sini, PMKS menyumbang lebih kurang 38% kepada GDP negara.
Betul.
So dan juga menyumbang lebih kurang 48% kepada pekerjaan.
Betul.
So dan 10% kepada ekspor. So PMKS harus diberi tumpuan yang lebih banyak untuk Belanjawan 2026. Dan kami lihat banyak bantuan-bantuan, banyak capacity building program, dan banyak program-program telah disenaraikan dalam bajet 2026. Haris.
Mr. Nivas, kalau kita perincikan melihat kepada satu perkara, akses kepada peruntukan dan juga mungkin insentif, apa cabaran utama yang dihadapi oleh PKS, terutamanya nak dapat bantuan dan juga geran? Kita faham ada isu, mungkin saya boleh sifatkan red tape ataupun isu birokrasi yang perlu dilalui, terutamanya kalau kita cakap mikro ni, kadang-kadang dia punya sistem ataupun laporan kewangannya tu taklah begitu baik, sehingga kan nak dapat bantuan dan sebagainya tu mungkin susah sedikit. Pandangan FMBA melihat kepada cabaran nak dapat akses bantuan, geran, insentif-insentif kerajaan ini.
Hari ini kerajaan, untuk pengetahuan Haris dan juga penonton, kerajaan telah memberi alokasi lebih kurang 50 bilion untuk grants, loans dengan semua agensi-agensi kerajaan yang sedia ada. Isu yang ada ketara sekarang adalah untuk requirement, dia nak mencapai eligibility, requirement, kelayakan permohonan tu adalah isu yang nombor 1. Sebab banyak company-company mikro adalah company yang dikategorikan oleh SME Corp sebagai turnover tak melebihi 300,000 setahun dan juga pekerja tidak melebihi 5 orang dalam sektor servis dan sektor-sektor yang lain. So mereka ni adalah mempunyai isu-isu untuk memastikan kelayakan itu tidak dicapai. So Dewan-Dewan Perniagaan dan juga Persatuan-Persatuan Perniagaan mengambil satu inisiatif untuk membuat program-program persiapan. So itu adalah sekarang, dan sesiapa yang mempunyai isu-isu kewangan disebabkan oleh impak COVID, mereka telah di-refer kepada agensi AKPK, Agensi Kewangan dan Pengurusan Kewangan di bawah naungan Bank Negara, dan kami we are in koordinasi dengan baik untuk memastikan pengukuhan dan pemantapan PMKs ini untuk to benefit from all this budget incentives.
Mungkin
kan satu lagi saya nak tambah, Haris, kesedaran awam, kesedaran PMKs, mereka tidak mengambil inisiatif untuk memastikan mereka buat persiapan untuk menerima ganjaran ataupun menerima bantuan-bantuan tersebut. Seperti satu dana di bawah naungan SME Corp didefinisikan sebagai BAP, Business Accelerator Program, yang memberi grant untuk pengukuhan PMKs dari segi otomasi, persijilan, pengembangan pasaran ke luar negara, persijilan dan juga packaging, dan juga untuk e-commerce, digitalization. So bantuan-bantuan grant begini adalah banyak di bawah kerajaan-kerajaan, di bawah agensi-agensi kerajaan.
Betul.
Tetapi untuk mencapai dan mendapatkannya adalah satu challenge.
Ya, adakah disebabkan syaratnya itu terlalu ketat, ataupun mungkin dalam komuniti perniagaan macam you sebut mikro itu yang mungkin sedikit sebanyak mereka itu susah nak sediakan dokumen, ataupun macam mengharapkan okey dapat cash aid cukuplah, tak payah nak mohon dan lain-lain, nak memenuhi keperluan-keperluan lain. Banyak sangatlah permintaan agensi-agensi kerajaan ni kalau nak dapat bantuan. Pandangan you lah, di mana silapnya di situ untuk to fix it, the problems lah, make sure that they receive it.
Saya rasa kelonggaran boleh diberi, tetapi ia based on case to case basis. Tapi syarat tu adalah penting supaya kita dapat mengukuhkan bisnes dan juga melonjakkan daripada mikro ke kecil dan sederhana. Itu adalah journey seseorang yang ingin berkembang dalam bidang entrepreneurship ataupun keusahawanan. So just cannot be just one off. Dia kena ada satu journey dalam dia punya entrepreneurship journey tu, di mana one step at a time. Dan juga kerajaan kita ataupun sebelum ni SME Corp ataupun di bawah naungan KUSKOP, Kementerian Keusahawanan dan juga Pembangunan Keusahawanan dan juga Koperasi, program-program sebegini banyak capacity building, dan juga program-program grant, program-program bantuan kewangan untuk memastikan SME grows to the greater heights.
Kalau kita bercakap berkenaan dengan, saya ambil contoh sektor-sektor tertentu ataupun jenis-jenis perniagaan tertentu, apa mungkin ada certain sektor yang susah ataupun kurang diberi perhatian lah untuk mendapat bantuan ataupun terlalu kritikal. Selalunya kita nampak mungkin services, perniagaan kecil ini mungkin agak mudah sedikit, tetapi bila dah naik daripada mikro dan naik ke kecil sederhana tu, syaratnya makin ketat dan banyak lagi mungkin, dan juga ada sektor-sektor tertentu yang mungkin terlepas pandang lah untuk mendapat bantuan ini. Pandangan Mr. Nivas.
Saya rasa kerajaan mempunyai roadmap yang baik. Roadmap yang baik, dan juga hari ini kalau kita lihat daripada 96% PMKS di business circle ni, 70% adalah mikro, 28% adalah kecil, dan 2%, dekat 1.6 ke 2% adalah sederhana. So untuk melonjakkan mikro kepada kecil dan juga melonjakkan kecil ke sederhana, ia bergantung kepada PMKS itu sendiri. So mereka harus mempunyai visi dan misi yang baik untuk perniagaan mereka, dan mereka harus memastikan perniagaan-perniagaan yang mempunyai futuristic, seperti yang berlandaskan AI, berlandaskan pendigitalan, berlandaskan otomasi. So ini adalah, dan juga green tech. Hari ini kerajaan memberi pandangan yang satu visi yang baik. Kita ada AI roadmap, kita ada green tech roadmap, kita ada National Industry Master Plan roadmap, dan juga National Energy Transition roadmap. So roadmap ini adalah penting supaya kita boleh membuat satu perniagaan yang berlandaskan future. So seperti satu perniagaan harus comply to ESG requirement. So semua perniagaan-perniagaan ini harus diberi kesedaran kepada semua PMKS supaya mereka tidak get out of the track.
Ya, betul.
So itu yang saya hendak highlight di sini.
Ya, tapi dari segi kita macam you mention ada banyak roadmap ya. Tetapi dalam komuniti perniagaan sendiri adakah mereka faham dan juga jelas berkenaan dengan roadmap ini, terutamanya kalau yalah nak fulfill the roadmap ataupun to be on track with the roadmap tu, you yourself as a business player you kena keep up yourself lah, you need to beef up yourself. Pandangan Mr. Nivas melihat
saya rasa ini adalah satu tanggungjawab yang penting yang harus dimainkan oleh semua dewan-dewan perniagaan, dewan-dewan perniagaan dan perindustrian, dan juga persatuan-persatuan perniagaan dan juga gabungan persatuan-persatuan perniagaan Malaysia seperti FMBA, di mana kita memberi kesedaran yang banyak kepada semua PMKS dengan membuat banyak program dan juga a lot of campaigns, a lot of awareness thing that actually highlights apa yang kerajaan table in the budget, apa yang agensi-agensi kerajaan come up with a lot of ganjaran, a lot of bantuan-bantuan, a lot of capacity building program, highlight a lot of opportunities. And hari ini kalau kita tengok export from PMKS is only 10% to the GDP. So kita harus meningkatkan lebih banyak penyertaan mikro dan kecil dan sederhana dalam export market. Sebab Malaysia is a trading nation. So sekiranya agensi kerajaan di bawah MITI seperti Matrik boleh memainkan peranan yang lebih besar untuk meningkatkan banyak usahawan-usahawan PMKS menjadi eksporter.
Go global.
Go global. Matrik memang sedia ada program yang baik. Tetapi dana di sana tidak mencukupi. So itu harus dilihat oleh kerajaan untuk meningkatkan dana itu seperti Market Development Grant, MDG. So itu tidak cukup, itu harus dipertingkatkan lagi supaya lebih banyak PMKS boleh menceburi dalam bidang ekspor.
Bercakap soal cadangan tadi untuk penambahbaikan dan juga pelaksanaan Belanjawan 2026 menyebut berkenaan dengan nak go global ekspor ini, bagaimana Nivas melihat bahawa apa cabaran sebenarnya nak go global ini? Adakah PMKS boleh pergi sendiri tanpa bergantung kepada Matrik sebagai contoh, ataupun persatuan-persatuan perniagaan sebenarnya boleh nak bawa, nak pergi mana expo dekat China ke ataupun negara-negara lain tu untuk mendedahkan usahawan-usahawan kita dengan pasaran yang lebih luas. Apa pandangan Nivas melihat kepada perkara sebegini?
I think hari ini kita ada satu agensi yang baik seperti Matrik, seperti yang saya kata tadi, di mana setiap bulan ada satu delegasi ke luar negara, specialized marketing mission, expo, exhibition, so dana-dana ataupun grant ala-ala diberi untuk menyertai program-program sebegini. Dan juga hari ini everything is online, so you boleh buat, you can stay in Malaysia and do export. You don't have to necessarily pergi sana. Everything is connected globally. And Matrik mempunyai satu portal yang baik, di mana portal itu memberi akses kepada semua trade alerts ataupun semua connectivity kepada importer di luar negara. And also you can list your businesses in Matrik punya portal, my export portal. Then anyone who wants to import something from Malaysia, they can access your directory ke sana. So ada satu program yang baik, market export acceleration program di Matrik. Ada satu delegasi-delegasi program-program untuk penyertaan luar negara, and also a lot of advisory diberi, semuanya free di Matrik. Tapi penyertaan dalam portal online tu there is a charges, but it is minimal. Tapi inisiatif harus diambil oleh pihak PMKS. Itu yang penting. Inisiatif harus the first few steps adalah penting. So itu yang saya hendak sarankan di sini.
Akhirnya dia berbalik kepada diri kita sendiri. Bagaimana kita nak make sure that usahawan itu sendiri mempunyai inisiatif untuk penambahbaikan. Okey, Nivas, mungkin akhir sekali lah, mungkin ada nasihat dan juga pandangan kepada usahawan-usahawan di luar sana, terutama mereka yang mungkin tak tahu boleh ke saya ni dapat bantuan, boleh ke saya ni ada grant-grant tertentu ke untuk saya meluaskan lagi perniagaan saya, untuk beli machines dan sebagainya. Ini bos.
Nasihat saya kepada semua PMKS adalah satu nasihat yang baik yang saya nak beri adalah keep your mind open. Tukar haluan pemikiran kita. That kerajaan kita ada memberi banyak allocation, ada memberi banyak capacity building program, ada banyak opportunity di country ini. Sebab kalau kita tengok semua negara-negara di Southeast Asia ataupun di Asia ataupun di dunia, Malaysia adalah satu-satu negara yang memberi banyak peruntukan dan allocation kepada PMKS selepas negara-negara seperti India yang memberi banyak peruntukan kepada PMKS microfinancing. So di Malaysia kita ada banyak peruntukan. So
betul.
Peluang tu harus disahut dan juga kita harus mengambil banyak kesedaran daripada bajet 2026 ni. Dan juga satu lagi satu lagi penyaranan kepada kerajaan supaya satu tracking ataupun checkpoint untuk 2026 bajet diberi supaya rakyat tahu apa tu accountability and also transparency, supaya kita boleh meneliti kembali adakah ia memberi impact kepada PMKS.
Ya, itu cukup penting kerana ini adalah belanjawan pertama untuk RMK ke-13 dan pelaksanaannya itu cukup penting. Terima kasih Encik Nivas Ragavan, Naib Pengerusi 1 Persekutuan Persatuan-Persatuan Perniagaan Malaysia FMBA yang juga Presiden Dewan Perniagaan dan Perindustrian India Kuala Lumpur dan Selangor. Baik, banyak lagi laporan untuk kami bawakan. Mungkin kepada anda di luar sana yang mungkin terlepas menyaksikan pembentangan belanjawan 2026, kami sediakan kalkulator belanjawan 2026 untuk anda, di mana kalkulator belanjawan 2026 dan Astro AWANI akan membantu senaraikan apa faedah dan manfaat yang anda dapat. Di mana layari saja astroawani.com untuk mengetahui info berkaitan belanjawan 2026 serta di aplikasi Astro AWANI. Baik, kita ke laporan yang berikutnya, di mana Pertubuhan Buruh Antarabangsa ILO menyokong usaha Malaysia dalam memperkasa tenaga kerja melalui pembangunan kemahiran bagi memastikan negara kekal kompetitif dan inklusif menghadapi perubahan lanskap dunia pekerjaan yang dipacu oleh kecerdasan buatan dan teknologi baru. Ketua Pengarah ILO Gilbert F. Hubo berkata kemajuan teknologi telah merubah industri di seluruh dunia, menjadikan pelaburan berterusan dalam peningkatan kemahiran dan latihan semula sebagai satu keperluan bagi kerajaan dan pihak industri.
Memetik laporan bernama, beliau berkata, dalam era AI ini, kita perlu memastikan teknologi berkhidmat untuk manusia, bukan sebaliknya. Justru ILO amat menitik beratkan aspek pembangunan kemahiran kerana ia satu-satunya cara untuk memastikan pekerja tidak ketinggalan dalam perubahan dunia pekerjaan. Hongbo berkata pertubuhan itu sentiasa menyokong negara anggotanya, termasuk Malaysia, dalam mengemas kini dasar berkaitan bentuk pekerjaan baru muncul dan memastikan pekerjaan baru yang wujud dalam sektor teknologi mengutamakan nilai maruah, pelindungan dan gaji yang setimpal untuk menyara hidup. Beliau berkata ILO juga sedang membincangkan untuk kemungkinan merangka satu konvensyen antarabangsa mengenai ekonomi platform bagi mengimbangi inovasi dengan pelindungan ke atas pekerja, satu aspek yang Malaysia telah mengambil langkah proaktif menerusi perundangan. Semasa lawatan pertama kali ke Malaysia itu, Hongbo turut menyertai Forum Kemahiran Global GSF 2025 yang disifatkan sebagai platform penting untuk tindakan bersama dalam memperkasa tenaga kerja. Beliau pada masa sama turut memuji Malaysia atas penganjuran forum itu selain menjadi peneraju keputusan ASEAN untuk mengisytiharkan 2025 sebagai tahun kemahiran. Beliau berkata banyak ekonomi kini berdepan isu ketidakpadanan kemahiran dengan setengah industri kekurangan tenaga kerja, manakala sektor lain mencatat kadar pengangguran sekaligus memperlihatkan keperluan kepada satu sistem pengiktirafan kemahiran lebih kukuh yang merentas negara sejajar dengan peningkatan mobiliti tenaga kerja.
Setiausaha Agung Pertubuhan Bangsa-Bangsa Bersatu PBB Antonio Guterres memberi amaran bahawa sistem perdagangan global berasaskan peraturan kini berisiko untuk tergelincir susulan peningkatan tarif yang memberi kesan paling buruk kepada negara-negara membangun. Berucap pada Persidangan Perdagangan dan Pembangunan PBB di Geneva, Guterres berkata perang perdagangan dan halangan dagangan yang semakin meningkat telah menjejaskan rantaian bekalan serta mewujudkan ketidaktentuan dalam ekonomi global. Ujar beliau, langkah Presiden Amerika Syarikat Donald Trump yang mengenakan tarif lebih tinggi ke atas import dari puluhan negara sejak Ogos lalu telah mengejutkan pasaran keuangan dan mencetuskan gelombang ketidaktentuan ekonomi.
While services trade is growing, we see a rising risk of trade wars for goods. And military expenditure trends show that we increasingly are investing more in deaths than in people's prosperity and well-being. Meanwhile, geopolitical divisions, inequalities, the climate crisis, and new unprotected conflicts are rippling across the global economy. Global debt has soared, poverty and hunger are still with us, and the international financial architecture is not providing an adequate safety net for the developing countries. And the rules-based trading system is at the risk of derailment. Developing countries continue to be short-changed. Uncertainty is growing. Investment is retreating. Supply chains are in turmoil. And trade barriers are rising, with some least developed countries facing extortionate tariffs of 40%, despite representing barely 1% of global trade flows. Maybe protectionism might be, in some situations, inevitable, but at least it should be rational.
Seramai 60 usahawan sosial dari seluruh negara telah berjaya menamatkan program Bootcamp Creative Sprint Hasanah Social Enterprise Fund HSEF 2025, sebuah inisiatif pembangunan kapasiti berskala nasional yang bertujuan memperkukuh ekosistem perusahaan sosial di Malaysia. Program anjuran Satu Creative Services dan Berhad dengan kerjasama Yayasan Hasanah itu telah berlangsung dalam 2 fasa, iaitu dari 7 hingga 9 Oktober lalu di Yayasan Hasanah Shah Alam dan dari 14 hingga 16 Oktober di Ting City, Georgetown.
Sepanjang 3 hari program, peserta didedahkan kepada sesi perkongsian ilmu, bimbingan mentor dan dialog berasaskan pengalaman. Para peserta membangunkan penyelesaian inovatif dalam bidang pendidikan, pembangunan komuniti, alam sekitar serta seni dan ruang awam telah dibimbing untuk menambah baik model perniagaan, memperkukuh strategi kelestarian dan meningkatkan kesiapsiagaan mereka untuk menjalin kerjasama serta menarik pelaburan. Ketua Pegawai Eksekutif Satu Kreatif Ahmad Azwar Zainuddin berkata, menerusi bootcamp tersebut, pihaknya menyaksikan bagaimana semangat diterjemahkan kepada tindakan. Peserta hadir dengan idea berani dan pulang dengan model yang telah disahkan, naratif impak yang lebih jelas serta rakan kongsi yang bersedia membantu mereka berkembang. Beliau menambah bahawa detik paling bermakna bukanlah semata-mata pembentangan akhir, tetapi proses kolaborasi, refleksi dan ketahanan yang ditunjukkan peserta sepanjang program. Bootcamp ini diakhiri dengan hari pembentangan atau pitch day di kedua-dua edisi Tengah dan Utara, di mana para peserta membentangkan model perniagaan mereka kepada panel mentor dan pemimpin ekosistem, sekaligus membuka peluang untuk menjalin kerjasama dan sokongan bagi memperluas impak sosial mereka. Pengarah urusan Yayasan Hasanah, Siti Kamariah Ahmad Subki berkata, bootcamp ini mencerminkan kekuatan kreativiti dan ketahanan para penggerak perubahan di Malaysia. Ujar beliau, menerusi dana perusahaan sosial Hasanah, pihaknya bukan sahaja melabur dalam idea-idea inovatif, tetapi juga dalam insan di sebalik idea tersebut, iaitu individu yang mengubah cabaran menjadi peluang untuk kemajuan bersama. HSEF, inisiatif Yayasan Hasanah dengan kerjasama Kementerian Kewangan, turut komited untuk terus merancangkan ekosistem perusahaan sosial negara melalui geran dan kerjasama strategik yang memperkukuh lanskap impak nasional.
6 rangkaian pembayaran nasional dari 5 negara ASEAN menandatangani Memorandum Persefahaman MOU bagi menubuhkan Badan Piawaian Global Bersama untuk pembayaran runcit segera tanpa kad. Inisiatif itu dilihat sebagai langkah bersejarah seiring usaha penyelarasan sistem pembayaran rentan sempadan di rantau ini.
Perjanjian yang dinamakan Georgetown Accord itu dimeterai pada 9 Oktober lalu melibatkan Payments Network Malaysia dari Malaysia, Network for Electronic Transfers (NETS) dari Singapura, National Payment Corporation of Vietnam dari Vietnam, BankNet Incorporated dari Filipina, manakala dua dari Indonesia iaitu PT Arta Jasa Pembayaran Elektronis (Artarjasa) dan PT Rintis Sejahtera (Rintis). Inisiatif ini menjadi asas kepada projek Next 50 Common Standards yang merangka hala tuju inovasi pembayaran untuk 50 tahun akan datang dengan fokus kepada penyelarasan transaksi rentas sempadan melalui kod QR, pemindahan akaun ke akaun, dompet digital serta teknologi seperti Near Field Communication NFC, biometrik dan kecerdasan buatan AI. Ketua Pegawai Eksekutif Kumpulan PayNet, Farhan Ahmad berkata, projek Next 50 adalah jawapan kepada keperluan platform industri merentas sempadan yang membolehkan kerjasama menyeluruh dan pembangunan piawaian teknikal serta operasi. Jelas beliau ia mencerminkan komitmen rangkaian pembayaran domestik terhadap pemilikan bersama, kerjasama praktikal dan penyelarasan strategi dalam industri pembayaran yang pesat berkembang. Fokus utama Next 50 adalah untuk menyelaraskan piawaian dan protokol teknikal serta operasi termasuk penyelesaian pertikaian dan pengendalian kes penipuan bagi mewujudkan ekosistem pembayaran global yang lebih selamat dan terhubung.
Baik, Niaga Awani berhenti rehat seketika. Selepas ini anda akan bersama dengan rakan saya Ibrahim Sani untuk The Economy with Ibrahim Sani.
Hari esok tak dapat diduga. Tapi sediakah kita?
Hello Johor! Ayo sertai Astro Home of Kids di Paradigm Mall Johor Bahru. Alami keseronokan bersama keluarga dan rakan-rakan anda.
Jom Raja Lepak!
Anda juga boleh bergambar bersama mereka. Pelanggan Astro boleh menebus pas foto laluan pantas dengan Astro Rewards. Jumpa anda di Paradigm Mall Johor Bahru. Astro Home of Kids, hidupkan keseronokan family di sini.
Tariffs on imports of products from China reaching up to 145%.
Tariffs on the rest of the world are sitting at 10%, with the potential for reciprocal tariffs to be reimposed within 90 days.
Kunjungan rasmi Presiden China ke Malaysia ini menunjukkan komitmen kedua-dua negara untuk meningkatkan hubungan diplomatik ke tahap yang lebih strategik.
Di dalam setiap berita yang dibawa, konteks amat penting. Kami sentiasa membawakan yang tergempar dan terkini. Pastikan Astro Awani menjadi pilihan anda, tidak kira di mana sahaja anda berada.
Uniform Tentera Darat Malaysia TADM bagi peserta program latihan khidmat negara tidak seharusnya menjadi isu hangat.
Jenayah penipuan Pelaburan mencatatkan jumlah kerugian tertinggi pada tahun ini setakat 2 Februari lalu.
Kementerian Pendidikan memandang serius isu peningkatan trend penggunaan rokok elektronik.
Lembaga Lebuhraya Malaysia LLM memperluaskan larangan kenderaan berat memasuki lebuhraya pada waktu puncak di beberapa jajaran terpilih di sekitar Lembah Kelam.
Thanks for joining the show. This is The Economy. I'm your host, Ibrahim Sani. Very recently, the world-renowned research house IPSOS has issued 2 publications that we need to discuss very urgently. The first is on populism, the second is about equality. Regarding populism, their research have found that few Malaysians now believe that society is less broken compared to 2023. The proportion of Malaysians who think that the country is in decline has dropped by 12%, suggesting a positive shift in their outlook on the country's direction. This in contrast with Indonesia, who shows an increasing concern about their nation and society, and of course Thailand. The trend is also seen on their second research, which shows about the notion of equality, because 6 in 10 Malaysians see inequality as one of the more pressing issues that is above global average. But again, consistent with the other research, this is not as intense as it is in Indonesia and Thailand. So from the research, we realize that nearly half of Malaysians believe that more must be done on addressing and promoting equality, echoing a global call for stronger action that is needed. To discuss this and more is their head of the IPSOS's Strategy 3 regional head, Kiranjit Singh. Kiran, thank you very much for taking time to speak with us.
My pleasure, thanks.
Let's do the big one here on the notion of equality.
Yeah.
When we talk about equality, because populism it needs to be discussed hand in hand, but why does Malaysia focus more on equality being an important problem to be resolved? And looking at your, I guess, highlight here, this is not seen across the globe or our nearest neighbour, Singapore. But is this something that we need to be addressing on the concept of more Malaysians feeling that more needs to be done for improving inequality?
Sure. So while most Malaysians right now feel that the country is moving in the right direction, but at the same time they feel that the economy or the country is rigged towards the rich and the powerful, the elites.
Okay.
Right. And that is manifesting in many areas of how their psychic is. For example, even the justice system, they feel there's a two-tier justice system. One is for the common man, one is for the rich and powerful, right? And that is not a good sign in the long term, right? And there's also a generational divide, right? So the Gen Zs and millennials are seeing inequality more on the personal terms, right, compared to the Gen X and baby boomers and so on.
Yeah.
So the millennials and Gen Z sees that as a more personal terms. And that is why, if you see in terms of violence, whether the end justify the means or not, most millennials and Gen Z, at least 50% feel that violence is an okay solution or okay step to restructure the system and so on. Whereas baby boomers, Gen X, and I overwhelmingly say violence is never an option.
Sorry, this should be an interesting finding for you as well.
Yes.
Why does the younger generation feel that this is the course of action or more comfortable to take this course of action compared to early generation?
Because they see it personally. Because if you see even in Malaysia, right, if you really see in inflation-adjusted terms, more Malaysians who are entering the workforce are poorer off compared to their fathers and so on, right? And they're feeling it. So there's more stress.
I mean, my dad bought a house in Damansara Heights for 20,000 ringgit. This was like 50 years ago. I mean, imagine getting that kind of house for that amount of money. That kind of inequality I see every day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that is why if you see in Nepal, right, the violence, I think about 70, 80 people died. And the millennials and Gen Z, for whatever reason, didn't think too much about going to the extremes.
And not just that, humiliating.
Humiliating.
Yeah. Stripping the former minister naked, tossing him into the river. I mean, this is...
So in terms of violence...
I don't know whether society needs to, what do you call that, is heading in the right direction if we think about it in that term.
Yeah, and it has nothing to do with whether you're left wing or right wing. It has to do with generation. So you know there's a horseshoe theory, right? So the extreme right and extreme left are coming together. And both are saying the system is broken, but the solution is different. The right wing is obviously saying that they want more authoritarian, forget about democracy and so on. Whereas in the left wing, it's more about socialism and so on, right? So that's why Mamdani in New York, from being an unknown, right, is now the front runner for New York mayoral race.
And of course, simultaneously, the assassination of Charles Kirk has also drawn mixed responses in the US, and that cuts across generation, nothing to do with the left or right divide.
Yeah, but it has to do with a bit of religion, a bit of geopolitics. I mean, for example, if you see the right wing, and to some extent left wing, are blaming Israel for having something to do with it. Like the Candace Owens, Dave Smith, and so on. Even the Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene has somehow alluded to the fact that Charlie Kirk was not too happy with what Israel is doing, but he was under pressure to toe the line. So it was an interesting debate. Again, horseshoe theory. Extreme left, extreme right are saying the system is broken. We need to do something about it.
How does this then translate? I'm just going to go straight into for the jugular.
Sure.
How does this translate into investments, growth of opportunity for investors to come in across borders, impact on tariff, for instance, across the globe? How do businesses see this?
Okay. I was in Philippines last week. And remember, we had issues in Sri Lanka, then we had issues in Bangladesh, in Indonesia, and Nepal, right? So I was trying to figure out where might be the next spot where we need to be of concern. I was in Philippines last week, and there is a major corruption scandal happening there on floods. So about 2-3 weeks back, there was a massive floods, and water was all over the place. People was inconvenienced and so on, and they were asking, "Hey, you have promised us, flood mitigation systems. You've been telling us this will, you have budgeted a couple of billions dollars. What's happening?" And they found out that the projects were actually paid but never completed. Or they wouldn't even begin, so it was massive floods, right? So not only anger was there, so the activism among the young Filipinos was there, but also you see the South Korea has now pulled back certain investments they want to do in Philippines because they feel that the corruption issues needs to be managed first before they will invest in a big way in the infrastructure in the Philippines.
But things don't happen in a vacuum. If investors pull up from a certain market, they're shopping around for another market.
Yes.
What would be the markets that they're looking at right now?
I think they're looking for a bit more safe haven. I wouldn't say safe havens, but areas where they feel they would see value.
Okay.
Because in Philippines, although they have, there's a lot of likes of JICA and so on, they're feeling that even their soft power is not being helped by supporting a regime where corruption is paramount. Yeah.
And comparing the rest of the markets in ASEAN, would you argue that Singapore, for instance, would fit that kind of bill, despite them having a higher, say, for instance, manufacturing cost, higher entry to business? Do they still have an advantage, or would still the low-base countries in terms of cost are still going to win attraction from investors right now?
I think lower cost is not a story which we should talk about. For example, now, if we look into Malaysia, I think we have about 15 million labor force workers, right? Labor force, right? But if you really see, it's more than 15 million because in those days we had these foreign laborers, and you can always get people from Nepal, Bangladesh, whatever to come in, right? So actually your labor force or labor pool is actually wider than 14-15 million. Right? You can see ASEAN in general, right? But now with the age of AI, I will argue that we have about 15 million or 16 million people in the labor pool. But then you should take into account also AI, the agentic AI. For example, you look at many companies right now, the entry-level jobs have been frozen and it's been replaced by AI tools. So actually what is happening now is in terms of labor force in countries like Philippines. I was in Philippines last week. The businesses of KPO and BPO were very worried, and that's a mainstay of Philippines economy in many ways, right? How will AI come in and disrupt the whole economy? So we have to, low cost is never a winning proposition these days. Governance, ease of doing business is a bigger
justice
driver.
System and recourse.
Justice system, recourse.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sorry. That would I would like to then posit the idea that Malaysia would stand better in terms of those kind of elements compared to our neighbors, no?
Well, depending whether you have a glass half full or half empty, right? If you see, I think even Malaysians, they are a bit skeptical about the jury system, right? So if Malaysians themselves are not 100% comfortable with the judiciary system, right? Whether we have a fair and equal society, again, as I mentioned, right? A two-tier justice system, right? So if nations itself are a bit skeptical, what about the foreigners, right? Foreign investors.
One thing that I want to highlight or draw attention to, particularly for the viewers enjoying this conversation, is that the IPSOS study finds that Gen Z and baby boomers show a strong belief in meritocracy, while millennials and Gen X are more likely to highlight barriers beyond their control. This whole idea of your notion that they're losing control, I suppose, and the need for them to take back. Is this going to be prevalent maybe across the entire generation of their being, or is this a flash in a pan kind of moment? Now they're feeling this, they might change their perception of view, later on as they mature.
Okay, it's very hard for me to conclude that, right? Because you know what you are 20 years old, when you become 40, 50, different, right?
Yeah.
Typically, you become more conservative.
Yeah.
But what is different now is typically a young adult, they are much more liberal when they're in their 20s, and they become more conservative when they reach the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and so on. But we're seeing now, especially young men, they are much more conservative, even at the early age. When they're 20, 25 already, they're very much more right-wing or very more conservative in terms of how they see things, right? Bigotry, xenophobia, and so on. It's commonplace among the young males. That's one thing. So it cuts across all countries. Now, interesting about China. So we look at China. About 15 years ago, if you see a survey, what will drive success? So if we ask the Chinese citizens, they said hard work, talent, working hard, and so on, right? But in 2024, maybe we ask the same question: what will drive success? Connections, coming from a rich family, is knowing more about who you know than what you know, and so on. So even in countries like China, there's a shift in terms of what will drive success.
We all know the story of Andrew Tate. As a symbol, not Mr. Andrew Tate, but that idea of male supremacy, very driven towards a particular slant of view on women and so on.
Yes.
And do you think that kind of view is now impacting markets like China, for instance? Maybe not to say
Korea, yes. I'm not sure about China, but Korea for sure. Remember, about a few months back, there was impeachment of the president.
Yes.
It started off where everybody was kind of not sure what stand to take.
Yeah.
But at a later stage, you found a men were supporting the impeached president, whereas women wants him to be toppled.
Yeah.
No, toppled.
Oh, toppled. Okay.
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 So there was divergence in terms how young Koreans, male Koreans, and female Koreans saw whether he's a good guy or a bad guy. So there was clear divergence in terms of how people view things. Now, so we come back to Andrew Tate, Joe Rogan, and so on, right? They will say that the last election in the US was a podcast election, a manosphere election, correct? And it was interesting, after the last election, the Democratic Party, right, came out with a program or retreat how to talk to young men. So they have an actual program on how to talk to young men. Okay, so even the Democratic Party saying that they're losing out, to
that particular demography.
That demographic, you know what I mean?
Is it here in Malaysia as well?
It's too early to say, but we'll just see. If you go to any higher education institutions, you'll find that about 60-70% of all the students are females, correct? I was given a lot of talks in universities, in public universities recently, and there was one university. It was about 80%. There was a lecture. 80% were female, and they were all sitting in front.
Okay.
The boys, I couldn't find it. They were hiding behind about 20%.
The walls, yeah.
You know what I mean? The walls hiding there. You know what I mean? Now, what happens is that more female graduates, when they graduate, they work in an office environment, whereas males, many of them, when first of all, they don't go into tertiary education. But even if they come out, they work in the quote-unquote blue-collar works. For example, the gig economy, whatever. Am I right?
Yeah.
Now, so
broadly
social
speaking
esteem,
and generalizing, yes, but also there's some truth in that as well.
yes, because the thing is about work, right? It's not only about income. It's also social esteem. Isn't it? And you find there's a lot of frustration. If you ask any guards in any condominium, you'll find that amount of confrontation they have with the delivery riders is increasing.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of frustration, right? You ask any guts.
Any TikTok, FYP would see these altercations taking place. Sometimes it moves into very violent altercations.
Yes. So because it's the social esteem is important, right? Social mobility is also important. Nations generally view ourselves as middle class.
Okay.
We never say we are poor.
Yeah.
We always say middle class.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah.
You ask anyone, even those in the B40, they say they were.
I had Khazanah Research Institute folks here on this show as well. They were talking about this as well at length, actually, about the middle class notion. Yes, you're right.
Yeah. So middle class. So as middle class, it's not only about whether you're B40, M40. It's about aspirational. Whether the things you want to do, right? Whether you're buying more aspirational products and so on. But at the moment, when they are being forced to go the other way, buy cheaper alternatives. You know what I mean? I remember I was speaking to this lady. She said, I used to buy a certain brand of coffee, but because the coffee is so expensive now, I'm going to buy some unknown brand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And for a basic item like coffee, she said I'm a middle class, but it's basic thing which coffee. And every morning I drink coffee in the morning before I go work. I realize that I have to compromise on the basic items, and that is not a good sign, right?
It's not, and you can just extrapolate something as basic as that to more, I guess, productive means of delivery of being efficient from technology products to vehicles and stuff like that.
Revolutions are never, it doesn't start with a big thing. It always starts with a small spark, right?
Speaking of which, let's talk about the populism study then.
Sure.
As per mentioned earlier on in the interview, the key highlight is, of course, fewer Malaysians now believe that society is broken. Compared to 2023, for instance. There's also another highlight that IPSOS finds that, however, many Malaysians feel that the country is largely influenced by the elites and rigged to benefit the rich and powerful, as what you have alluded to.
Yes.
The subtext here is that Indonesia and Thailand show consistently high levels of agreement to this notion and significantly exceeding global average on both statements, but we're not far behind.
We're not far behind.
And how is this giving the signal towards politicians, public policies, as well as governmental monies? We saw the recent budget as well, reflecting the need to appease the populace. Some would argue that it's a populist budget. So how does this tie up with public policy then? And of course, later on, the follow-up is on businesses. How do they look at this moving forward?
So I was speaking to some policymakers recently, and I told them that don't think Malaysia is any different than the rest of ASEAN. Okay, maybe we are 1%, a couple of percentage up or down, whatever, right?
Yeah. But it's the same bucket.
It's the same bucket, within 60 to 80%.
Yeah.
Right. So about 60 to 80% feel that the economy is rigged towards the rich and powerful. Inequality is an issue. About what is a bit surprising among Malaysians is they are okay. In fact, they are welcoming of a strong leader to come in who is willing to break the rules to fix the system.
About half of Malaysians believe there is a need for a strong leader to fix the country. Malaysia shows a stable level of agreement compared to 2023, indicating consistent desire for a strong leader who is willing to break the rules.
Yes.
By definition, this is Trump or Hitler. I don't know which one is which we're talking about here. Or Gandhi. I don't know. I mean, Gandhi also fits this bill, or Mandela, whatever it is.
It could be. But basically, somebody to change the system.
Yeah.
Am I right? If you see in UK right now, Rishi Sunak, didn't do so well, right? Then Keir Starmer is also hanging on to life. So if we were to do election today, I will be, if I'm a gambling man, I will say Nigel Farage will probably win the elections right now. Right.
Yeah, and the worst part about all this is what you just said is that not many people will disagree with you. This is the worst part about what you just said.
Yes. So even Malaysia, they're not asking the leaders to do something illegal, but willing to take a bold stand to make some changes. Yes.
Sabah election
strong leadership is super important.
So Sabah election is in the air.
Yes.
Many political parties are now making a lot of notions that they want to do this, that, and all. Are they making the right moves to win the hearts of the population there, or do you still think that these kind of statements so far that we have heard across the political spectrum is still not enough in trying to address what the research has shown, i.e. believing that there is a need for a strong leader to emerge?
Yes, there is. So we have done a couple of in-depth look at Sabah, and there's a lot of frustration. There was one quote which somebody said that we were promised good schools, good road, but what we got was dry pipes and potholes.
And flooding.
And flooding. Remember, in Philippines, there's a big drama right now. It's because of flooding. Okay, because when your property is flooded, your cars are flooded and so on, and you're really struggling and so on. And promises were made, elections after elections, by every political leader that things will change and get better, but it's not getting better, all right? The good thing is the Sabahans are still optimistic that the federal government will do something, and they will do a better job than the local politicians.
So do you think that, say, for instance, federal parties or Semenanjung parties would see some form of gain in the Sabah elections?
We know IPSOS is not a habit of political polling.
Yeah.
But I'm just stating as what we are seeing right now. The trust towards federal politicians is higher than the trust towards the local politicians.
Let's go back to the core competency of IPSOS.
Sure.
Does this also mean that companies who have a stronger brand promise towards a particular belief or a particular ideal would stand to win at the marketplace compared to brands that are pretty much silent on this issue? I'm thinking of Patagonia, for instance.
Okay, yes and no.
Yeah.
Okay, because you got to walk the talk. Okay, with social media, you can only mask your noble intentions to some extent. Am I right? I would say that if on social media, if you follow TikTok and so on, companies which are advocating on ESG and so on, but then they're laying off people at the same time, it defeats the purpose, correct?
So the mixed messaging, the hypocrisy, I suppose.
The hypocrisy and so on. So now, is productivity the only measure of success of a company? Now with AI, there's a lot of conversation. There's a buzzword, future ready. We're trying to be future ready.
Future-proofing. Future-proofing as well.
But now lately I've been reading a couple of reports, future ready. I know there's a code word for, what? We're going to get more AI involved and less
human.
Yes, yeah. So I think, yes, in theory, companies which have done well in being sincere in what they're doing, correct? They will do well in the long run, but not only on the environmental side, but also on the social side and the governance side.
Let's land this conversation. So does this mean that public policy will steer towards more populistic notion, or are they're going to be grounded? They have to do what they believe the thing is right? Or are we going to see more and more markets shift towards populism and stronger leaders to emerge from the political spectrum?
I will answer your question by saying that whenever I read reports by World Bank or IMF, I love their analysis, but often I disagree with their recommendations. Okay? So I think policy makers are not economists. Policy makers should have the rakyat's concern paramount, isn't it? So the decisions made by the policy makers should reflect the pain points of the rakyat. So, like I said, World Bank, IMF, or any other think tanks are very good in terms of analysis, but sometimes I will not take their recommendations lock, stock, and barrel.
Yeah. Thank you very much with this very riveting conversation. That was Kiranjit Singh, the IPSOS Strategy 3 Regional Head. You can find out more about what they do and the kind of research that they produce over at their website. And you can also look back to the interview that I had with their group CEO a few months ago that I did. These are the kind of conversations that's going to be carried forward here on Astro AWANI and also on this show. And of course, stay tuned with us for future programming. Thank you very much for watching. Catch you in the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you.